Kumho Tires, official partner of AutoGP.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Czech Republic for the Brno circuit, hosting the final race in the 2013 AutoGP World Series. I'm Jake Sanson, beside me is Tom Gaymore, and we have a three-way title fight. Vittorio Girelli, Narain Karthikeyan and Kamiya Sato are going head-to-head for the championship.
It almost looks like it's first thing in the morning, doesn't it, here at Brno? But I can assure you it is the afternoon. The weather is getting foggy, believe it or not.
So the top eight reversed from yesterday's race. So race one winner Narain Karthikeyan starting 8th, just behind his championship rival and teammate Vittorio Girelli. It means that Roberto La Rocca has the reverse pole from Roda in 2nd place. Sergio Campana, no longer capable of winning the championship, starts from row 2 alongside Tamas Palkis. Kamiya Sato, an outside bet for the championship in P5 alongside the youngest man in the field and podium visitor yesterday, Robert Vizoiu. And then we have Girelli and Karthikeyan. Watch out for Kevin Giovese. He starts last, courtesy of not making it to the flag yesterday. Didn't even make it past the end of the first lap due to a mechanical problem. So he'll be charging through the field. Now, how can this championship be won? Well, there's several scenarios. Sato has to win. There's no two ways about it. Sato has to win and hope that Girelli and Karthikeyan do not score. That's the only way that Sato can win, so there's still a chance. Karthikeyan has to win with Girelli finishing no higher than 7th place. Failing that, Karthikeyan has to be 2nd and set fastest lap, with Girelli not scoring. As far as Girelli is concerned, he has to finish 5th or higher. 5th will give him the championship. And how difficult is that going to be from 7th? Well, so far this season, he started 7th in race 2 at Hungary and won that race. He started 6th on the grid in race 2 at the Nürburgring and finished 2nd. So it can be done. It can be done. Looking at the grid, I mean, Vizoiu and Sato are obviously on the 3rd row, so for Girelli and Karthikeyan, those two will be hard to pass. Tamas Palkis on the 2nd row, he'll be hard to pass, a real hard charging Hungarian. Campana hasn't really had the pace. I mean, he'll be difficult to pass, but it's pace really, and I don't think he's got it. Andrea Roda, again, I don't think he's got the pace on the front row. It'll be interesting to see what La Rocca can do. A new guy, US Formula 4 2000 champion, racing for Comtech by Virtuosi, who came in at the Nürburgring round earlier on this year. Now, he's not bad, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do from the pole position. But, I mean, Brno doesn't lend itself to overtaking, does it? And getting down to turn 1, it's a long run from the grid down to turn 1, and it can get a bit clustered on the exit and the turn 2 kink that leads up to turn 3. So I tell you what, it's going to be a fraught time for the Supernova pit crew and Kamiya Sato's pit crew as the cars fan out over this first lap or two. Well, Sato managed to use pit strategy to his advantage yesterday, made an awful lot of time to end up 4th yesterday, so he basically made the best of a bad job and just about kept himself in the championship fight. Mendet van Buren, who we saw starting high yesterday in the race and running very well, didn't do well with his pit strategy. That's why he's starting 12th today. That's where he ended up finishing. Lost so much time, and that's a man, of course, who finished on the podium last time out at Donington, so they got it terribly, terribly wrong. Neither of the two drivers on the front row of the grid, La Rocca or Roda, have finished on the podium this year. So that is a possibility for them to prove that they have got what it takes. But they've got 6 men behind them, all of whom have finished on the podium. I mean, I think La Rocca's got a chance, you know, I genuinely do. Last race of the year, I think he's talented. I'll probably just put the commentator's curse on him and probably stall on the grid now, but no, I genuinely think he's got a chance. This man, De Jong, dovetailing AutoGP with GP2 this year with, well, without being too hard on the Dutchman, not a great deal of success. It's very difficult when you try and do 2 campaigns at the same time. Another man who knows what that's like is the youngest man in the field, Robert Vizoiu. He's dovetailing his AutoGP campaign with the GP3 season. And how difficult is it when you're trying to do 2 championships in very different cars in the same season?
Well, GP2 and Auto GP, it's a logical progression. Cars are big, cars are fast. GP3, a very different car to drive than the Auto GP car. And actually, Vizoyu, he has two tough teammates in GP3, racing for a very good team in Arden. But done very well up until the midpoint of the season. I think he led more laps than anybody else into the summer break. Hasn't quite worked out for him in the second half, and his teammate Kvyat, the Red Bull Junior, really has accelerated away in that Arden camp. Sites Junior's had a bit of bad luck, but Vizoyu is actually quite a talented young individual, and he's just using Auto GP to get more experience in the bigger cars, and we may see him in GP2 next year. It'll be interesting to see.
So let's talk a little bit about our three championship contenders. They're all at three different stages in their careers as well. It's worth noting that. The championship leader, Vittorio Garelli, 19 years of age. Last year in Formula 2 and World Series by Renault with varying success. GP3 in 2010 and 2011. He was Formula Renault 2.0 Alps and Euro Cup racer. He's done Formula 3. He's been the master of KF2 and KF3 in karting, so this guy knows his racecraft. He's very much a star of the future potentially. Kamiya Sato turned 24 yesterday. He's pretty much been a solid Formula 3 driver over the years. There he is, lining up 5th on the grid, but he was present at the Young Driver Test, of course, earlier this year, so he has had recent experience of Formula 1 machinery, and he's a Japanese driver. That always seems to lend itself to finding enough of a budget maybe to fill one of the back cars on the grid. We've had quite a few Japanese drivers find enough yen to put themselves in the frame for a Formula 1 drive. It's not out of the question for Kamiya Sato, maybe not for next year, but the year after perhaps. And then you've got Narayan Karthikeyan, 36, oldest man in the field, has already raced in Formula 1 for Jordan and HRT, was the Williams test driver, raced in Super League. He represented his country for A1 Grand Prix for Team India, NASCAR trucks, Le Mans, Telefonica World Series, which is now, of course, the World Series by Renault, Formula Nippon, Formula 3. This guy's done it all.
Yes, and if you talk to him, he's actually looking at trying to do IndyCar next year. So, I mean, we've seen the likes of Montoya back in the IndyCar fold, Kanaan to Ganassi. I mean, the veterans are really flying that flag highly over in the States, and there's no reason why Karthikeyan can't get in the mix. He doesn't have the oval experience, but they will look at him favourably because he is a talented individual.
Well, you say he hasn't got the oval experience. What about those NASCAR trucks? That's certainly somewhere in between. I mean, it's not exactly the same as IndyCar, but it would certainly give him an idea. It would certainly give him a leg up.
Yeah, he knows that you've got to turn left and what is it? Yeah, it's left, and but
occasionally
it's a very difficult thing to master driving on an oval. You really do need the experience and the mileage.
Well, here's your man, La Rocca, Venezuelan, as you said, US Formula 4 2000 champion. And an opportunity here for The Rock, as he's got written across his visor, to prove that everybody should be watching out for him in the future. But who's going to be champion? Garelli, Karthikeyan, or Sato? This final race of the championship will decide it. We'll be back in a mo.
Kumho Tires, official partner of AutoGP.
On the rolling lap, it's a foggy Brno circuit that the drivers will be negotiating for this final round. It almost looks like 8 o'clock in the morning. It's not. It's 2:45 local time. And here's the championship points. Garelli on 210, Karthikeyan 195, Sato 192. Sato has to win and hope that neither Supernova scores to become champion. Karthikeyan has to win with Garelli 7th or lower, or finish 2nd with fastest lap, with Garelli not scoring to be champion. Garelli has to finish 5th or higher. That's what it comes down to for the last race of the season. Robert Vizoyu, the youngest man in the field, just in front of a potential champion. Vittorio Garelli, the Italian, teammate to Narayan Karthikeyan, the oldest man in the field at 36. Kamiya Sato celebrating his 24th birthday this weekend with an outside chance of being the champion. However, reverse grid pole is Roberto La Rocca, finished 8th yesterday, so he is on pole for this one alongside Andrea Roda with Sergio Campana and Tomas Palkis. There is Karthikeyan, the most dominant man in this second half of the season. 5 wins to his name, 4 pole positions, 4 fastest laps, but crucially, can he get the championship?
At least we not forget he started with Zelle Racing, didn't have a great deal of success, switched to Supernova in the last 9 races with Supernova. He's won 5 of them. So certainly gelling with David Sears' squad, and why not? They really are a powerhouse in this AutoGP field, and a powerhouse in junior Formula really for the last couple of decades. They've really established themselves in F3000 back in the day, then in GP2 and now in AutoGP. So plenty of heat being generated in the rear tyres. You need to get some temperature into the brakes, and that will help build temperature in the carcass of the front tyres as well. Very difficult to generate heat in the front tyres of these cars, and that is Giovesi.
Yep, Giovesi, mechanical problems in race 1, which meant he didn't even complete the first lap. So watch him streaking through the field. He'll be flying through, making up places left, right and centre. Only the Supernovas have outscored him in the second half of the season heading into this race. Now Sato and Campana have outscored him, but that means that Giovesi will be a contender from the back. The 2013 AutoGP World Series comes down to this race. Who will be champion? Girelli in 7th on the grid, Karthikeyan in 8th on the grid, Sato in 5th on the grid. And then we've got La Rocca and Roda on row 1. Who's going to get to the first corner first? Let's find out. Great start by La Rocca. He gets a good getaway. Slightly bogged down now, though. Hasn't quite managed to get up through the gears, and he slots in behind Roda. Sato's made a flyer of a start up from 5th on the grid. Around the outside of Roda, he's going to clinch the lead if he keeps this going. Sato all the way around the outside. He's got the inside for the second-hand flick. And is Sato going to take the lead? Yes, he does. Kamiya Sato has taken the lead. Only just from Andrea Roda at a crucial moment, and the Supernovas are going wheel to wheel.
I'll tell you what, whilst you were watching the lead battle, I was looking at Karthikeyan. He got very racy with Viso. You had to get out of it, and there was very nearly contact between Karthikeyan. So while Sato was in the lead, Karthikeyan nearly had contact with Viso Yu and was out of this race. Luckily, he got out of it. La Rocca made an absolute howler, didn't he? Got away, reaction was good, way too much wheel spin. Then he bogged down, then he built the wheel spin. It just was all wrong from La Rocca, and showing his inexperience there. He is a rookie, and so very difficult. Karthikeyan now on the outside of Viso Yu.
Very close indeed. Yeah, just about. So Karthikeyan through. There's a lock-up just in front of them. It looks like they could get very close indeed. Sato is your leader, though. Campana is 2nd. Roda is 3rd. La Rocca is 4th. Keys is there in 5th position. Karthikeyan 6th. Viso Yu 7th. And Girelli 8th. If the championship were to finish like this, Girelli would just be the champion from Karthikeyan and Sato, but it would be a handful of points in it. It's going to come right the way down to Giovesi in the 22. Giovesi has come up into 10th place off the start. Absolutely magnificent driving from Giovesi.
So Karthikeyan up behind Palkis now. He'll be one of the harder drivers to pass around here. The Hungarian, very, very robust, aggressive, runs wide, and La Rocca in turn not that quick onto the front straight. Palkis towing up behind the contact by Virtuosi car. He's not close enough, and Karthikeyan's looking racy, isn't he? He needs to get clean air between himself and Girelli. Certainly he's got to forget about Sato. He's just got to keep going forward.
Well, both Karthikeyan and Girelli need to make sure that they just finish in the points at this stage, because if Sato wins and the 2 Supernovas score, then Sato can't be champion anyway. So Sato has just got to get on with what he's done. What a start! When the pressure was on Kamiya Sato, he went, right, I want this championship. It's now or never. I have to win. I have to get the best start. And he did it.
I tell you what, Girelli's got his hands full, because Giovesi's going to be cruising up to the back of him in a moment. So certainly if Viso Yu doesn't get the hurry up, he's going to back Girelli into that red car coming into the background, and that is Kevin Giovesi, the fast starting man from the back of the grid.
Yeah, the Ghinzani driver has really had his work cut out from the back of the grid, but he's made light work of it, and he's already in the top 10, already in the fight. And he's on the tail now of Girelli, as you say. Big lock up from Vizoyu at the hairpin at the bottom of the circuit, and now they start the climb up. Let's watch the start again.
So on the right-hand side of your screen, Narocca makes a howler. Roda's actually not bad away. Then Campana now is trying to get past Narocca. Sato just pulls out of Roda's slipstream and all the way around the outside of him into turn one. Watch for the multicoloured yellow, red and blue car on the exit. We're not going to see it, but that was Kartikeyan and Vizoyu getting very, very close together.
What a start from Kamiya Sato. That was, I have to win this championship, so I've got nothing to lose now. And now he's being chased down by Campana. He's not able to lose him. Campana sets the fastest lap by just over 100th of a second. So Sato and Campana are going to have a great championship battle, which could potentially, of course, end up being the battle for second in the championship. Campana can mathematically take second in the championship, not first, but he can mathematically be second in the championship. Now LaRocca is trying to make up for lost ground to try and get past Andrea Roda.
So through the tricky turn 3, turn 4 sequence, projected points, Girelli will lead this by 1 point, but he's got Giovesi in close attendance. This is much closer than I thought it was going to be. I genuinely didn't think Sato had the pace to do what he's doing, and he is doing an absolutely marvellous job out front. Campana now dropping off to about a second behind, and Roda holding up this gaggle of cars. That is going to serve to benefit Sato even more, because within this gaggle is Kartikeyan and Girelli, and like I said, the more the concertina effect happens, the more chance Girelli and Kartikeyan have with coming under pressure from cars behind them.
Now LaRocca is getting held up behind Roda, and this is where the concertina effect is going to begin, because Keys is in behind, then it's Kartikeyan, then it's Vizoyu, then it's Girelli, then it's Giovesi, and if they're not careful, the Manor MP cars of Van Buren and de Jong will get caught up in that as well. So from third place backwards, we could have the world's fastest snake flying around this circuit with no one able to make a move, and if one person makes a move, it'll throw everything off kilter. And as far as I'm concerned right now, if I was on the Supernova pit wall, I'd be sweating buckets right now. So very close indeed between the championship contenders. As it stands at the moment, Girelli would still be champion by 1 point. But if this queue, if this long train continues to hold each other up, dirty air, there's no chance to get a bit of a clear line. It's all going to come down to pit stops.
And Giovesi the first to blink. This is very clever from the Ghinzani Motorsport squad. He's going to do, or try and do, what Sato did yesterday. Pit early, get out of the dirty air of Girelli, and use that pace that we saw in the opening few laps here at Brno to really leapfrog those ahead of him. He's going to be a real thorn in the tail to some of these drivers now. What are the others going to do? How are they going to react? It's a difficult strategy, this, for Supernova, because ultimately they have to look after track position, but they've almost got to be reactionary to Kamiya Sato. If I was Kartikeyan, I'd roll the dice. I would be in this lap and forget about Girelli.
It's worth going for at this point, really, isn't it? You've got nothing to lose when you know that Girelli is a couple of places behind you. You're not going to get the win if you don't think clever at this point. And Kartikeyan knows that. The Supernova team know that. They know they've got two drivers with the potential to go for the championship. They need to maximise their opportunities here.
Yeah, and you know what? The reason I say that is they've got to roll the dice, but their focus has to be on Giovesi as well. I mean, there's no point in staying out if they're going to hemorrhage positions to the likes of Giovesi, because they're going to be difficult to pass later on in the race.
And so we've got a very interesting scenario. It's difficult to know what to say at this point, because it's so completely unlike what we expected was going to occur in this race. We thought it was going to be straightforward, but it certainly isn't. Into the pits comes Tomas Palkis, and suddenly the entire dynamic of this championship finale has turned on its head.
So this needs to be a quick start from the Zelle Racing crew. They didn't quite get it right yesterday, did they? And now they need to get it right more than ever. It was Joseph Crowell that had a problem with his rear yesterday. Palkis, nice stop. And the rear tyres, it's slightly quicker than the front tyres stop, because you don't have the jackman that needs to get out of the way. So just that half a second makes all the difference.
And critically, Sato has just put in the fastest lap. In AutoGP, you gain a point for fastest lap, which means that he would tie with Girelli on points, but Sato would win on victory count back. So that's how close this championship finale is. It could be it could be Girelli or it could be Sato. It's all to play for. Nothing is certain right now. It was looking plain sailing for Supernova yesterday when the sun was out and the sky was blue. Now we're in the fog. Sato has pulled a barnstormer on the rest of the field. And as far as everything is concerned, hands are now in the air. Looking at where they finish now on the track is no longer relevant because we've had some of the drivers up in the front making their pit stops. So it's kind of thrown the positions out of place because we've had Keese making his pit stop and we had Giovesi making his pit stop as well, so it's still all to play for.
Karthikeyan has to pit now. He's just hemorrhaging time, stuck behind Roda. Palkis will be down the road. Giovesi's lapping quickly as well. Sato's lapping quicker than anybody out front. Karthikeyan has to pit now.
Well, is he going to do that? Is he going to hear the Tom Gamer words of wisdom out of the final turn? Does Karthikeyan pit? Yes, he does, and he needed to. He could not have left that any later.
No, that's perfect for Karthikeyan and Supernova. It still leaves them with a problem. Girelli will have to do something as well. Giovesi and Palkis really, they're, well, throwing a spanner in the works, but this man's got to go for it. Girelli's just got to cover position, really. And, well, Mina van Buren was getting in the way there. Luckily, didn't cost Karthikeyan too much time, but they couldn't release the Indian, could they?
No, I think he lost about half a second in that whole incident, and you may think, well, half a second, that's not much. Yes, it is. It could be, in this championship decider, it could be the difference between the AutoGP World Series Championship and second place, and who remembers second place?
So 6 laps completed here at Brno, and that man, Girelli, is under real pressure. This is very, very tight.
It's his championship to lose now, and he knows that it's all or nothing now.
Kumho Tires, official partner of AutoGP. Partner of AutoGP.
Kimiya Sato leading the final race of the 2013 AutoGP World Series, and he pits, as we talk about it, on the last lap while you were away. La Rocca and Vittorio Girelli both chose that moment to pit. Girelli getting held up by the Mana MP of Daniel de Jong, and Karthikeyan just getting past him on the outside of turn 1. So Sato, this is the only opportunity they have to make a perfect pit stop, and it's a little bit sluggish. They have to get a move on. Down off the jacks and away they go. That's not bad, but Kimiya Sato would have wanted it to be a little bit quicker than that. There's a championship on the line, and if he wins and gets fastest lap, Girelli will have to finish at least 7th to seal this championship. Sato is taking this down to the wire.
Just looking at how it's panning out behind him, Giovesi hasn't really managed to benefit from that fast stop, so his outlaps weren't great. Palkis is ahead of him, having stopped. Girelli is right behind Karthikeyan, as you said. Now those cars, Karthikeyan has about a 4-second window. The rest of them are quite closely stuck together, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because Girelli does not want the attentions of Palkis for the rest of the race. This is your race leader, Campana, drifting it out of the corner there. That's not going to be that quick. It looks spectacular, but it's not fast. He now needs to do something special to try and leapfrog Kimiya Sato in the pit stop sequence. I don't think that's going to happen. We'll have to wait and see what can Campana do, the Italian.
Well, the Euronova team didn't do the best job with Sato's pit stop. It was okay, but it wasn't quite vintage performance. I reckon Campana's going to try and go as long into this race as he can to build the rhythm he's got in the tyres, but I don't think that's going to work. As you say, I think Sato is going to eventually jump him at the end of the pit stops here, so Campana would have had a better chance, I think, of covering position to try and beat Sato in one lap. He's going for the risk here. He's trying to beat Sato over the long haul.
What a time differential was too much for him to be that much quicker over a lap, so he has to try and do it over a period of laps. That is no doubt, but whether or not he has the pace to do it, it is yet to be seen. I genuinely don't think he does. I mean, last lap a 46.2 compared to you know, some of the other guys are in the 45, so Sato hasn't completed his outlap yet, so we'll wait and see what his outlap is.
Well, Formula One aficionados will remember the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix when the championship came down to the last corner of the last lap. Looking at how many points there are available, 20 for the win, a bonus point for fastest lap. There was a point in the race where Sato was leading and Girelli was down in 8. Sato set the fastest lap at that point. Now, if that was how it was to end, they would be dead level on points, but Sato would win, courtesy of the fact that Sato would have his 5th win of the championship compared to Girelli, who only has 2. So that is how close it would come down to. If they tied for points, Sato would be champion, taking his 5th win. So it really is going to come down to the last corner, possibly, of the last lap. I can't wait.
Karthikeyan's got fastest lap.
At this precise moment in time, yes, he does. He's just done a 1:45.047. He's the man who's currently the fastest at the moment. He's showing purple in the first sector, fairly reasonable second sector. So Karthikeyan is actually the man who's on the move. So Sato needs to find some speed. He's really got to win and set fastest lap here to be in with a shout, potentially, of the championship. Now into the pit lane, that's Roda, who was running second behind Campana. Now that'll be interesting to see where he feeds out in relation to La Rocca, Giovesi and Keese.
Yeah, so the only non-stoppers at the moment, Campana, Kuroda and Ciccone.
And Josef Kral, I think, hasn't stopped either. Sato beat him out of the pit lane. Sato goes through. Karthikeyan goes through.
We've lost Visa U, by the way.
Oh, hang on. One of the Supernovas, sorry. One of the Supernovas has got damage to the front wing. I think that might even be Karthikeyan, the Indian. I'm fairly sure he's ahead of Girelli at the moment, and he's got a problem with his front wing. He's just set the fastest lap with 1:44.9, but I'm fairly certain Karthikeyan, if we have a look at him in shot, I could have sworn I saw that the wing is flapping. I'm fairly sure he's got a problem. Campana out in front, taking things nicely in his stride. I want to have another look at Karthikeyan because I'm fairly certain that Supernova has got a problem with the front wing.
This is your race leader. 10.7 seconds, or 16 seconds now up the road from Kuroda. Roda has stopped, Ciccone hasn't. We've lost Visa U. We didn't see that, but Visa U's gone.
After the 7th lap, yes, Vizeu's retired from the race. We didn't see what happened there. So sadly out of the race.
But that's going to help Girelli. That hurts Sato. That's why I've mentioned it. Because that's another place that Girelli's inherited. He doesn't need to gain on circuit.
Absolutely, and that could be, again, the difference between Girelli taking the title and Sato taking the title. Campana still out in front, trying to build up the gap. At the moment, the gap between Campana and Kuroda, it was about 5.9, I think, at one point. Kuroda, of course, still needing to pit. Sorry, it's 17.6 is the gap between Campana and Kuroda. Ciccone still there in 3rd place. It won't be long before he pits. Then it'll be Sato, Karthikeyan behind him. So Karthikeyan has made up a lot of ground by pitting early, and that's really helped him. He's going to be sat right behind Sato. There it is, look, Karthikeyan with a flapping front wing.
Yeah, that looks as though it's hanging on by a thread. It is hanging on, though. He's setting fastest lap. It's not really doing too much in the way of hampering his pace. It will do if it gets stuck underneath the front of the car. It certainly will be producing less drag. Just shows that actually the aerodynamics on these cars are not pivotal. You know, that it's not like a World Series car that is heavily aerodynamic dependent. There's a lot of power in these things, and they do have quite a lot of mechanical grip as well. But quite how Karthikeyan's done that, I should say, you know, it must have been passing a back marker, but that is a legacy of how hard he's pushing. It's win it or bin it for Karthikeyan.
And he really is pushing it. The wing wobbling like a bad tooth, and a 4-year-old, he's really, really struggling to keep this thing in a straight line. He knows he can see Sato right in front of him on the road, and potentially he's got 2nd position at the end of this race if he keeps this up. But he knows that he's got to win, with Girelli being lower than 7th to be champion himself. So Karthikeyan really pushing it. He can't afford to run too wide, otherwise it's just going to be the tiniest little millimetre. That wing's going to catch, and it's going to go underneath the car, and he could end up in the barrier.
So this is effectively the battle for the lead. This is Sato and Karthikeyan. They are 3rd and 5th on the road. But this is it, really. These are the leaders in terms of those that have stopped. And so 4 laps to go.
Watching that wing is really nauseating even from a commentary point of view. If I was sitting on the Supernova pit wall, I'd have forgotten my nails. I'd be raw down to the bone by now. This is nail-biting stuff. And Karthikeyan pushing like mad for a last-ditch effort for the championship.
Kumho Tires, official partner of AutoGP. Partner of AutoGP.
This is the battle for 5th position, and it couldn't really be any closer for Girelli. Stuck now behind Draconi. We've just had Campana make his pit stop and rejoin behind Sato and Karthikeyan, and it really is a frustrating moment for Girelli, stuck behind Draconi. Tom, why is he doing this?
Yeah, the Ibiza Racing team left Draconi out. This is for position. This is to try and help Campana, and Draconi really, it's a little bit naughty, it's a little bit unsporting, it's in the rules, but, you know, really, I'm sure that Girelli and Campana are big enough to sort it out themselves. They don't need somebody who's comfortably off the pace in the way. But there we go, and that's Campana getting heat into his tyres, and that's his teammate blocking Girelli. And like I said, it is for position. Draconi will have to pit now, and that is La Rosa.
Yeah, La Rosa running out of talent a little bit there and running wide off the circuit, hoping to come back on in front of Josef Kral. But we want to look back at the action now. There's the leader, Kuroda, the last man to pit, making his pit stop, but Draconi surely will be in on this lap as well, because if he comes in on the next lap, he'll get disqualified or at least penalised for pitting on potentially the final lap.
No, he can pit on the next lap, so he'll be in next time around. He's just being a wingman to Campana.
Well, we say that he can pit on the next lap. Oh, no, sorry, yes, the 15th lap. Yes, he can pit at the beginning of the 15th lap, so that could work in his favour, yes. But no, I was referring to an incident earlier in the season when Girelli pitted on the penultimate lap, crossed the line to start the final lap as he pitted, and that cost him the victory on that particular occasion. So now everybody has learnt that you now have to pit no later than the start of the penultimate lap to avoid that penalty. So Draconi is going to leave it to the last possible minute. This is now, of course, the battle for 4th place, and we said that Girelli must finish 5th or higher to be the champion. Well, once Draconi pits, it won't matter, because Girelli will be up in 4th, and that will be his championship one anyway.
Well, I just don't see the point of Draconi doing zigzags across the track like this. It's one movement. He doesn't even know the rules. That's 2 movements. I mean, he's not even helping his race.
No, indeed. If I was the steward, I'd have him up in the box at the end of that race. That is absolutely ridiculous driving from Draconi. You're allowed to change direction once, not 2 or 3 times, and that's what he's been doing consistently for the last 3 laps.
Yeah, but even if he's driving his own race, he needs to be going as quick as possible to make sure that he doesn't lose position when he pits.
Oh, Girelli, don't get into an accident with Draconi. He's going to be pitting anyway. Just leave him alone. I know you're going to worry about Roda behind you, but just let Draconi come into the pit lane, go around the outside. There we go. But this is the problem Girelli's now got. Draconi pits, and Roda is right on his tail. That's cost Girelli so much ground, and he could potentially lose another place here to Roda.
They won't let Roda go around the outside of him. He just needs to make sure he slows it on the apex. There we go. Build the throttle through turn 2. Roda's built oversteer, so that's not going to help him on the run up to turn 3. Girelli's got clean air now, and he can, well, get on with it, and off we go up to Campana. But I don't think he'll pass or catch even Campana now. 4.5 seconds the gap, and so Campana would effectively be secure in that 3rd place through Draconi's antics.
Very disappointing to see the Ibiza Racing team using that tactic, because Campana couldn't be champion anyway, and it just didn't seem to make any logical sense for me, unless they're trying to make sure that Campana finishes in the top 3 in the championship ahead of Sato or alongside Karthikeyan or whatever. I just don't see the percentage in it.
I mean, for me, I understand it's in the regulations, and yeah, slow Girelli down just to let Campana go, but you know, 2 movements is not in the regulations, and over a course of 2 laps, you know, proving going hammer and tong to keep the man behind you was maybe not as sporting as it could have been, and that really is a problem. But it's not this man's issue, is it? It's been an absolute masterclass from Kimi Sato. He's been very aggressive from the start. Starts his last lap now, and he's done everything he can do apart from, and he has got that fastest lap. There you go, 44.470. Kimi Sato doing everything he can. Work the points out. Let's do some maths.
Well, Kimi Sato will score 21 points, having had 192. That will give him 213. Girelli is going to score, I think it's 10 points for 4th position, so that will give him 220. He'll still be the champion. Karthikeyan, 2nd place. That's worth 15. That's going to give him 210, the same that Girelli currently has. So it's looking like it's going to be Girelli from Sato and Karthikeyan in the championship.
Yeah, but Sato is leapfrog Karthikeyan. That's what I meant, you know.
Absolutely amazing. Karthikeyan has been spending the last 8 laps driving around this Supernova, driving around Brno circuit in the Supernova with the wing practically hanging off by the final fingertip on the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, once it's not come off initially, you can pretty much forget about it and just drive around the problem. We see it in Formula 1 as well. And so, quite a robust front wing there. Karthikeyan not losing too much pace.
I've been super impressed by all 4 championship contenders in this race. They've all got on with it. They've all done a fair job. Campana didn't have the mathematical chance to be champion coming into this race, of course, but his drive to 3rd position, fairly mature, unlike his teammate Draconi in that race, holding up Girelli. But Kimi Sato had an impossible task coming into this race, win and set fastest lap from 5th on the grid. Many people might have said it couldn't be done, but here comes Sato. What a driver, what an effort. Kimi Sato wins the final race of the championship and has set fastest lap, but is it going to stand? Is somebody else going to go faster on the last lap to take that point away? Here comes Karthikeyan. He comes across the line for 2nd position, and he hasn't gone faster. It doesn't matter anyway, because Campana's going to be 3rd, but behind him, victorious at last, 19 years of age, Vittorio Girelli has done it. He is the 2013 AutoGP World Series champion, and deservedly so. He has finished on the podium at every single race weekend this year. No other driver has done that, and yes, he may have only won 2 races to Sato's 5, but who was more consistent? Vittorio Girelli. What a champion.
Yeah, what a great drive. Didn't get rattled. Could easily have got flustered behind Draconi, because even I was getting flustered, and I've got nothing at stake. I'm just sat in the commentary box. David Sears kept his man cool. They knew how to get the car home, and Vittorio Girelli is a worthy champion. Kimi Sato did everything he could, and he's been rewarded. Let's not forget, he was 3rd going into today's race. He's leapfrogged Karthikeyan, and so he has been rewarded. But it's all about this man, Vittorio Girelli.
Kimi Sato is the Felipe Massa of AutoGP World Series, did what he needed to, dominated the last race of the season, and got a fastest lap out of it as well. That's no more than you can ask for from a driver. Starting from 5th on the grid, that must have seemed absolutely impossible. But round the outside of turn 1, right, I'm in the lead, off we go. Let's see if we can do it. And he very, very nearly did. It could not have been closer. Well done, Kimi. You have definitely impressed me today. But Vittorio Girelli is still the champion, and what a drive. So both men acknowledging each other on the slowing down lap. Very close indeed. And what a championship final as well. That's what we wanted to see. 3 drivers going in it hammer and tongs for the championship in the last race, and from nearly all parties today, there was fair play.
Yeah, you know, it's more embarrassing really than anything else. Draconi did, what was the point in that? I mean, he finished the lowly 15th, and wow, you kept the championship leader behind for 2 laps. Yes, Campana finished on the podium. Was it sporting? No, it wasn't. Girelli, here he is. Never mind, he lives to fight another day. He's the man smiling, and that is why 7 points clear of Kimi Sato and 10 points clear of his teammate Karthikeyan. Kept his cool, kept his nerve, and boy oh boy, made it count at the last moment, putting it on pole position in Friday's qualifying session was key, wasn't it?
Interesting to read the comments on Twitter of Peter Allen. Draconi clearly has a problem with former Team Supernova, and he's decided to take it to the track. Very interesting to see that as well. Very good point there from Peter. wonder if that was team orders or whether that was just personal from Francesco Dragoni. I can't race for my old team, so I'll take my vengeance out on the championship battle. But this man has done it anyway. And there is David Sears himself, I do believe. Vittorio, P1 2013. What about that? You don't need to win every race to be a champion. It's all about where you finish when you don't win. Consistency decided this championship, and Vittorio Garelli is the king of AutoGP in 2013 with a fantastic effort all season long.
So Karthikeyan with the 5 wins, Garelli with the 3 wins, Campana 3 wins. Was well fought out. How many wins did Sato get?
Sato got 5 in the end, so exactly the same as Karthikeyan. Garelli only won twice all season, actually, so Garelli managing to keep particularly consistent. He got 10 podiums over the course of this year. So an amazing performance then from Garelli, and he is the king.
Kumho Tires, official partner of AutoGP.